All right, the end of the tax year is right around the corner. But listen, that doesn't mean it's too late to slash your tax bill. And today, we're going to talk about a deduction that you might literally be sitting on. Think about it for a second. All that driving you did this year. I mean, to appointments, to volunteer, could that actually save you money? Well, the answer is a big yes, and I'm about to show you exactly how. And here's the best part. It is not too late to claim these miles. The whole secret is just knowing about 3 specific types of deductible miles. Once you get these, you could unlock some serious savings. Seriously. Okay, first up, the mileage you missed. Let's dig into the stuff you've probably been overlooking all year. So here's the 30,000-foot view. You've got 3 main players here: business, medical, and charitable mileage. Now, you can see business miles go on your business forms. Pretty straightforward. But medical and charitable miles, those land on your Schedule A. But, and this is important, only if you itemize your deductions. Think of this as our game plan for the next few minutes. All right, let's kick things off with the one you're probably most familiar with, business mileage. Okay, this one is the real heavy hitter of the group. Business mileage, it usually gets you the highest deduction rate per mile, which makes it super valuable. This is for all that driving you do for self-employment, maybe managing your rental properties, or really any other business-related trip. And you'll see this deduction pop up on a few different tax forms. You know, if you're a freelancer, you're probably using a Schedule C. If you're a landlord, a Schedule E. And of course, partnerships and corporations have their own forms too. The big takeaway here is just that this deduction is always tied to activities that make you money. Okay, let's move on to a category that so many people just completely miss. I'm talking about medical mileage. You could almost call it your health's commute. Now, here's the big rule you have to remember for this one. You have to be itemizing your deductions on Schedule A. If you just take the standard deduction, I'm sorry, but this one's not for you. But if you do itemize, then all those miles you drove for medical care, they can absolutely be counted. And just think about how often you make these trips. We're talking about the totally normal everyday drives to your doctor, your dentist, the eye doctor. The rule of thumb is pretty simple. If the medical expense itself is something you can deduct, then the travel to get that care is probably deductible too. And here's a really important detail about the trip home. Yes, you can count the miles on the way back, but, and this is a big but, you can't stop off to do personal errands. Like if you swing by the grocery store or pick up a few things for the house, that breaks the chain. The trip is no longer just for medical purposes. A quick stop for a coffee? Probably fine. A big shopping trip? No dice. All right, on to our third and final category, another one that gets missed all the time: charitable mileage. You know, driving for a good cause. Okay, before we get into the details, we gotta understand this term, 501c3. It sounds technical, but it's really just the IRS's official stamp for a qualified nonprofit. And this is super important because your charitable driving only counts if it's for one of these official organizations. So, you know, being generous and tipping a homeless person is a great thing to do, but it doesn't count for this specific deduction. So what kind of driving actually qualifies here? Well, think about times when you were actively doing something, providing a service. You know, driving to your church to help out at a bake sale, or maybe traveling to a fundraising event to volunteer your time. Any trip where you're actually performing a service for that 501c3 is what we're talking about. This is the core idea to get right here, the difference between service and just participation. For instance, driving to a church fundraiser to help set up and work the event, that counts. But just driving to attend the Sunday service, that doesn't. You have to be part of delivering the service, not just receiving it. Here's a fantastic little rule of thumb to keep in your back pocket. Just ask yourself this. If I wrote this organization a check for $100, could I deduct it as a charitable donation? If the answer is yes, then chances are the miles you drive to volunteer for them will qualify too. Okay, so now you know the what, but let's get to the most important part, the part you can actually use, the how. This next part is all about taking action and creating your mileage record right now. And this brings us to a huge, huge myth that trips people up. So many of us think that if we didn't keep a perfect little logbook in our car all year long, we're just out of luck. And I'm here to tell you that is absolutely not true. You can create your mileage record right now after the fact. So how do you actually do it? It's really just a simple 4-step process. First, pull up your calendar, your digital one, paper one, whatever you use, and look for those doctor's appointments and volunteer events.
Second, hop on a tool like Google Maps and calculate the round-trip mileage. Super easy. Third, create a simple log. A spreadsheet is great, but even a plain old document works. And finally, for every single trip, just make a note of the date, the total miles, and the specific purpose. Was it business, medical, or charitable?
And let me just say this again, because this is probably the most empowering thing you'll hear today. That written record, it doesn't have to be made in the moment. You can create it at any time, even right now, just before you sit down to do your taxes. Now look, is this reconstructed log the absolute gold standard? No, of course not. Keeping a log in real time is always going to be the best way to do it. But is this method legit? Yes. The IRS actually considers this passable most of the time. The key is you've done the work to create a credible and reasonable record. So, the big takeaway here is to act now. Don't wait. Go back through your calendar for this past year while all those events are still pretty fresh in your memory. I promise you, you might be shocked by how many deductible miles you can actually find.
And that really brings us to a final thought. I mean, if something as routine as driving can hide these kinds of tax savings, it really makes you wonder, right? What other everyday activities in your life could be hidden deductions, just waiting for you to find them?